Welcome back to another episode. Today I want to talk about physiology and how you can use your body to shift your mind and shift your mindset, and how that using your body can actually be a lot more effective and easier and quicker to shift your mindset than actually trying to think your way into a more empowering mindset. So a lot of people try to think themselves into a better mindset, and that does work, and there's specific tactics and techniques that do work very well that we train individuals on. But an easier way to get yourself into a specific mindset is to use your body. This is the unique, you can say, integration between your brain and your body. Your brain, if we go back throughout evolution, I'm not talking about humans, but the origins of the multicellular organism and the origins of nervous systems and brains. Bodies existed, if we take a look at a bunch of cells, existed before nervous systems existed. Nervous systems then evolved to be the brain, or brains, because there's obviously millions of different types of brains in living creatures. But that means that bodies existed before brains. So brains were actually developed to make bodies more efficient and to enable bodies to have complex movements, okay, through distance, to find food, and so forth. So our bodies are just as important as our brains. And so it's kind of funny, like, what works for what? Does your body work for your brain, or does your brain work for your body? This is still kind of up in the air. We do know that healthy brains can't exist without a body. Okay, it just doesn't happen, and vice versa. So there's a strong correlation and connection there. And let's take a look at the origins of yoga and the discipline of yoga and even martial arts, and how people thousands of years ago, we're talking about up to 6,000 years ago, potentially, for yoga, the origins of yoga in India, where people identified that by using their body, doing certain practices, they could actually shift how they thought and shift their quality of life and their emotions. And that, if we go back to yoga in particular, these yogis practiced yoga and were able to put themselves in specific states. And then they trained, and obviously there's literally billions of people around the world that practice yoga. Okay, so what they identified, and they've refined it and fine-tuned it over 6,000 years, is that certain practices can shift your state in a certain way. So essentially what they did was they basically found out that you can use your body to shift your mindset, shift your health, and shift your quality of life. That's what yoga essentially is. In a parallel discipline or disciplines, there was also the origins of martial arts. And martial arts, they say, comes from a source martial arts, a central martial arts. And in that practice or discipline, they too identified that by using your body, you can shift your mindset. So here we have the wisdom, we're talking about of humans thousands of years ago, where they identified that, hey, look, we're in crappy moods sometimes. We're not feeling so good all the time. But if we do these certain practices, we can actually shift how we feel and how we think, and even how we perform. Okay? Because yoga and martial arts very much are performance-based disciplines, which is very, very fascinating. Because in today's age, what we do as intellects and knowledge workers is we try to think ourselves into a better mindset. And yes, there are techniques to do that. But the easier way is to get up and use your body. It could be by exercising, going for a run, going for a walk, which is a basic, simple practice I recommend for every single person, 10 to 15 minutes every single day. You can do, if I haven't mentioned it, breathing exercises. Okay, so these are all different types of practices that you can do. And there's a very strong correlation there's definitely a strong correlation through research that's shown specific breathing practices actually can improve your health and help you get over disease. We do know that, okay? But also quality of life and performance. We know that in our studies, the studies that we've done, where people are using their bodies, and we actually practice and train people on this, that when they are using their bodies more effectively, they actually use their brains and their minds more effectively. So this is something that's extremely powerful for us when we're sitting at a desk or we're doing intellectual work. We tend to focus on our brains. We tend to focus on our minds. What we need to do is focus more on our bodies. Yes, our bodies are our temples. We absolutely do need to take care of our bodies, because when we're exercising, eating right, we have the proper sleep, we are much more likely to have a better mindset and perform better and reach our potential. When the opposite is true, when we're not sleeping very well, we're not eating very well, we're not exercising, it makes it that much harder, and we have to expend that much more energy to keep at the top of the level when it comes to our mindset. So let me just wrap it up here. The simplest thing that you can do, the easiest thing that you can do to shift your mindset is to use your body, whether that's through yoga, through martial arts, through breathing practices, through traditional, you can say exercise, working out, hitting the gym, or going for a walk. So the next time you are feeling like you need to shift your mindset, use your body instead of your mind.